Hello, my name is Orla Connolly, and I've been the creative assistant on Through the Senses, an alternative walking tour of Brighton that explores the visually impaired experience of navigating the city. This tour was delivered by Sussex Dance Network in March 2022 in collaboration with visually impaired performance artist Ebony Rose Dark. It was funded as part of the ABCD Plan for Cultural Recovery. We just want to say a big thank you to all of our partners: Brighton and Hove City Council, Arts Council England, Brilliant Brighton Business Improvement District, and the Welcome Back Fund, all of whom made this project possible. Ebony is a visually impaired performance artist who is based in Brighton and is very experienced in and passionate about accessibility, both in and out of the arts world. So this podcast is a sit-down conversation with Ebony at Brighton Palace Pier. We discuss Brighton, accessibility, compassion, the project, the workshops, Ebony's practice, and what visually impaired people and sighted people can do to make their experience of Brighton safer. The podcast is complete with all of the ambient noises of Brighton's remarkable soundscape. Linked to the podcast is the route that made up the tour. We started at the clock tower and navigated our way to the pier. So you may wish to open the route and listen to the podcast while you do the route yourself, guided by the route map and Ebony and mine's conversation. Or maybe not. Either way, I hope you enjoy it as much as we enjoyed making it.
Yeah, so I guess if you just want to speak a bit about your experience of Brighton, I guess, and how you experience Brighton.
Okay, so my experience of Brighton, I'm going to start from the beginning because I have two different kind of sides, I guess, I would say. I have the side where I was living near London Road, and so that was kind of coming from not a very hustly area going into. That's very different to be living in it and going through it. It's quite different. The only obstacle I had there was bins.
Yeah.
Wheelie bins. It was like, wow, I never experienced anything like it. Walking down the street and you've got bins, and sometimes both sides could happen.
Yeah.
Or you had bins one side and bikes attached to lampposts.
Oh yeah.
So you kind of have that, and that was like interesting. But I find in these areas, because it's not so busy, people are were very aware of me. So they'd like move out of the way. They'd like, oh, mind, just if you stop there a moment, I'm doing some work on my house and I've got all my tools out in the street and I'm doing this. So please hold up, and then I'll clear it up and you can go by. But all right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And people were always letting me know what was kind of going on, which was really helpful because when builders are around in their town, sometimes they can be very vigilant and other times not.
Yeah.
So I could literally be walking through and I would not know if there's, I don't know, an obstruction of some kind. And they wouldn't necessarily say either.
Yeah.
Which is a bit, for me, a little bit irresponsible.
Yeah.
There was one point I walked through, I could hear a sound walk through. And as I was walking through, they were drilling. And I was like, oh, and there was stuff going everywhere. And because I think in the city itself, people are a little bit more are not so aware, and people are actually wrapped up in their mobile phones a lot.
Yeah.
Or they've got headphones on, which I think is dangerous.
Yeah.
I've heard some horror stories about people being knocked over with their headphones on, and so it's very different to being. I think that's the difference for me, is living outside of Brighton City and living inside Brighton City. Very different. In the thick of tourism, constantly, because I don't feel all that happened in the pandemic is people came less.
Yeah.
That's literally it. There was less. I heard less suitcases wheeling down the road, and as things opened up, that constant wheel of suitcases has become like huge. Now every day, like whether it's sunny or rainy or awful weather, I'm like, oh, they've come all the way from, I don't know, somewhere up north, maybe, to come to Pebble Beach on the south of England. Okay.
And do you find like, so through the year, do you find like there's different, like you just talking about the suitcase wheels, like is that like nearly a sign of summer in Brighton, or do you find it's consistently like
it's consistent.
Consistently.
Even in the winter time. Mm-hmm. I mean, in the winter time, I would, if in the winter time to get sunshine or to get anything, I'd go abroad.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and also because now, but people, the difference is that it's just less busy. Mm-hmm. Getting around town is a little less busy, unless there's an event on.
Yeah.
That can just turn things on its head quite quickly.
Yeah.
From it being dead to there being an event, it's like, oh my god, there's an event on everywhere. It's so busy and people are coming down. Like I'm sure yesterday would have been busy when before you were in town.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so, do you go? Like, would you go to many events in Brighton? And like, what's your experience of that?
So I have been. So when things started opening up, I went to the Spiegel tent to see David Hoyle. Mm-hmm. That was fun. The staff were very helpful. And I know David, we performed together. Right. So it was just amazing to see. And actually at the time I was thinking, we've come an awful long way and I haven't done that journey. It was in the time when face masks still mandatory on public transport. Yeah. And I was just thinking, I haven't done that big journey yet. Out of Brighton, right up north.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, do you want to give a little bit of background to David?
So David Hoyle is a cabaret performer known as the Divine David from a show back in television, Channel 4, back in the day. And then he went into cabaret and performs in London a lot, and in Brighton a lot, and in Manchester a lot. And so I performed with David at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern for 6 consecutive Thursdays, which is amazing. Yeah. It pushed me in the right way I wanted it to, in terms of producing and like creating. Yeah. Like really getting the creative juices going. And when you're around somebody like that who's really creative, it inspires you to keep on. Mm-hmm. Like, even though it's like every week, I was like, God, what am I going to do? Don't think about it, just create something and you just bring it. Yeah. And trust in what you know already. So that was so when they were here, I was amazed, thinking I don't think I'm ready to do that yet. Yeah. At the time I was like, I don't think I'm ready to make that journey. Like, what if I get asked to do something in Manchester? And actually, lo and behold, the following year, months later, was it the following year? No, last year. Last year I was asked to do something. So it would have been last year I saw him. And then months later I was asked to do something in Manchester. And there I was doing the journey the other way around. Yeah. And I was pretty nervous. And I went on my own. And I was like, I actually moved trains and carriages because I was a bit annoyed about. I was sitting next to a family who were French, British, they had children, and a guy behind me who was coughing a lot, and he had called his friend to come and sit with him, and I just thought no. And I heard, I could hear lots of shuffling around in the carriage. Yeah. And I was feeling, people are moving around in this carriage quite a lot. And as I left, I noticed that people had moved out of the carriage. Yeah. And I moved into a carriage, but I also need to charge my mobile phone. So there was a seat facing, which is facing like I'm facing you now. Yeah. But the seats were on the side here. It's actually a disabled area. Okay. And the doors were where you are. But there was a guy sitting there, and I was thinking, I need to sit here and I was just over analysing the coughing and all this.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh God, I really need to charge my phone.
Yeah.
And I know that here was a charging point.
Yeah.
And I was like, do you mind if I sit here to charge my phone? Oh, no problem. And I just said, please don't cough.
Yeah.
And he didn't cough. Like, at all for like, well, it was there for 45 minutes. We were talking. I was like, oh, you haven't coughed. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And it was really weird. And after that, I was like, okay, well, I've done that journey now. It's time to try and ease myself back into some kind of normality again.
Yeah. And yeah, so when you go to like events and things, just to circle back to that a little bit, so what's your experience? Because obviously, like Brighton is so well known because it's like such a lively city and there's so much going on. So I guess it'd be interesting to hear like how you experience that or how you find it.
So I mean, I haven't been out as much as I say was going out before when I was living in London.
Mm-hmm.
That's just because the lockdowns happened.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the speaker tank was great. I went with my friends, and it was a really good night. And then I also went to a night at the Ironworks.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Ironworks is like an Ironworks studio, is a new accessible venue where Pride was held during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
There was hosting a few performances, and it is accessible, though there are a few little bits which just markups would be, that they, and actually to be fair, when I performed there, they actually marked up everything, which is really great. So they respond well to access needs.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, they're doing it for the night. Yeah. So I haven't really, in terms of the bars.
Yeah.
For example, the Charles Tap on the corner is very good.
Okay.
And they've always been very kind of welcoming, and asked if they can help in any way. Very accessible, friendly.
Yeah.
They actually have a disabled toilet as well. So they're very good. Overall, I mean, I've always had a good time. I feel that some spaces, some other LGBT spaces were a bit. So, with the whole table service, that kind of, for some places, they're a bit, I'm not sure, prepared for the amount of people that would be going.
Yeah.
So it was a bit slower. Sometimes you'd be left waiting. In one place, I was waiting for such a while, I actually got up to ask. And they're like, oh, you must sit down. I was like, well, yeah, but I haven't been served. Like, I'm waiting. I've been here for quite a while. you know. Again, before that, there's often a problem with, for me, being partial sighted, my eyes probably look quite normal, whatever normal eyes look like. And so a lot of people, they think I can see them making weird faces or expressions or signals, which doesn't really, for those who are not confident in shouting out, oh, who's next, or what can I get you, kind of thing, that are not so, which I find bizarre working in a bar. That you can't ask those questions to customers. That can be a bit of a problem, where people just don't feel confident enough to say hello, can I help you, type thing. That has happened at a few places here, and so I'm actually doing an awareness course training for people that work in LGBT spaces.
Yeah.
To hopefully give them a bit more confidence in coming forward on, being like, hi, can I help you type thing, or let me know if you want me to walk you around the bar so you know what it's like. This kind of thing. So what as soon as bars get busy, it just becomes a bit chaotic, basically. And to get from a table to a bar with loads of people is being visually impaired is awful. Then you've got just the whole navigating through and back, and to know what the space is like before people come in is amazing. And it's something I'm hoping that they'll be more open to kind of offering.
Yeah, because I mean, like when you say it, that seems like a really basic access requirement that would like make your experience of the bar so much easier. But also, I guess it's just not. I don't know, maybe because people aren't aware of it. It's not. Just the second you say it, you're like, yeah, of course. Of course, that would make a lot of sense.
And I just think, which is why I think some people are quite sad that the whole table service has stopped because of this very thing of going to the bar, back. And waiting in a queue at the bar for such a long time. And nothing's happening. So, that's my experience so far. In pubs it's quite different. I find pubs and bars are very different in terms of just getting served is not so much a problem, I find. And I remember when I used to come here before I lived here, there's places you just go to because the service is so good. Like James, the James Street pub, the James Street Tavern. It's a really friendly pub. The staff are very friendly, very chatty, and the Black Dove at the end again. Very chatty people, very confident. That makes all the difference to your experience there as well. But for me, it's So when I went to a cafe a few weeks ago near me in the South Lanes, and I think I asked them what I wanted, and I said, "Oh, what food do you do here?" And they're like, "Oh, well, I can read the menu if you like." And I was like, "That'd be great, actually." I was like, "That is so cool. That is why I'd come back here." Just because that's just like, again, people just don't think about those things. And these days I try, if the menu is decent enough and presented in a decent enough format online, try and go before, look at the menu before I go to restaurants or anywhere, providing it's up to date.
Of course.
Or it's not like a photo. Some of these menus are actually quite awful, like photographed or however they're put on the website, and really not the quality is not always that great, and so you don't always, it's blurred out font, so I can't read that menu. It's like, even if I zoom in on my phone, it's still just a black line. So and here I've come here for quite a while. The service has always been very good.
It's really lovely.
And you get when it gets warmer, I sit on the table, which is just next one here. And you just sit like the sun comes directly down. It's beautiful.
It's like I really love like the warmth on my skin, like that tactile stuff, like sensory. It makes me feel really comfortable. And here also you get the sound of seagulls, you get the sound of the sea.
a lot of ambience.
Yeah. I don't know if like it'll be picked up on the recording, but also the sound of the amusements like in the background as well.
I can hear that as Yeah, and it was funny to be here and that being not happening.
Yeah.
That was quite funny. And then it was also funny when it all started again.
Yeah.
As well. And surprising to learn they have a log flume now right on here.
Oh, do they? I've actually never been.
My friend told me about it. My friend came down with her husband, and they're a bit of an adrenaline. They're both adrenaline junkies. And I was like, where does the log flume? Does it go into the seawater and out again? I'm like, there surely needs to bring water on here for that. Surely.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder how it would work. And I thought, how bizarre to be on a pier, on a log flume, with a water ride. Sounds
a bit spooky.
Yeah.
So if you were to like to describe Brighton, like if someone hadn't come here and you were to describe like what is the first things that come to you, like what? Because for me, I would like talk about like visual stuff. I would talk about all of these things. So when we're talking about three senses,
for me, I would say seagulls.
Yeah.
Of
course.
The kind of sea air, which you get the waves, and depending on what time of year, wind.
Yeah.
If you're coming in the summertime, I guess I'd say like hot spots for sunshine, like that might be on the beach or on the pier. So places to go to get the sun.
Yeah.
And bars where you get nice places you get good sunset, which is here. And there's a few bars along the up the road here.
Yeah. Along the seafront.
Yeah. Places along here, but also back.
Yeah.
Like the Amsterdam Hotel is a really nice spot to sit to watch the sun. Or like I just taken beautiful pictures through my phone and I zoomed in on the colours of the sky, and it's a really nice spot. And the odd occasional smell of fish and chips.
Yeah. Yeah. Goes hand in hand with the seagulls.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I guess as well, it'd be really good to hear you speak about the project and about what we're doing.
So the idea is through the senses is to give people a very sensorial tour of Brighton. So that's as a kind of experiencing the vibrancy, the smells, the textures of the floor, the sounds, and also different ways of getting to places that might not be you might not have thought of. So it might be a bit off track, but you're still getting towards the seafront, as opposed to going down the main road all the way around. So places where it can be a little less congested. But really just a more, I guess, slightly less visual approach to getting around Brighton.
And what was like, where did this idea start from, I guess, or like what made you, what was the beginnings?
Oh gosh, well, many things. So first of all, I did a photography project last year, and I was walking around quite a lot. And looking back on that was a real good walking around. That enabled me to get a good idea of ways which I'd like to try and navigate the city.
Yeah.
And then when this project came up, I thought, wow, I can now apply that.
Yeah.
and really play on it and use that and think about how I might guide a group of people around, and use the landmarks that I know, such as the clock tower, Boots, the town hall, as ways that I might have gotten to the seafront. Because so I've kind of done walks through the city and I guess around, so like going around, coming through like from the bottom of I guess from, I don't know how to describe it, from the pavilion, and coming around to the seafront that way. So yeah, I've done both ways, and I think that's also a good way as well, because again, it can be a little less busy until you get to the ends, which are all crossroads, all roads, big crossings. People crossing. So I think this is like, through this way it's not so bad. There's a bit of a gradual quieting down and gradually building up again in terms of soundscape and busyness.
Cool. And then also, so I guess maybe describing like the process that you've been through, so like the one-on-ones and the movement workshops.
So basically, the one-on-ones for me, it's really interesting to know about other visually impaired people that live here and their experiences, how long they've been here, how it contrasts to anywhere else they've lived before. In which case, luckily, most people that I can think of have all got a place to kind of contrast it with, or so one of the participants has been in and out of the city, has lived in other places, and they were able to comment on what they feel could be better for them and for other visually impaired people.
What were the types of things that came up in that?
Just in terms of the tactile paving, the lines on the road, more kind of clearer signage for visually impaired people, things that actually stand out. So there is signage there, but it's probably not. And I know in areas it's not as is pronounced the right word. Like it could be clearer. There's this new, probably a new idea of points of crossing. They have them in the lanes and they have them on other streets as well. And I think the indentation is really important to be kept up. And things like that came up. Having bollards in appropriate places is also good. And if you're going to have a bollard that is visible. So preferably black, not silver, which is often the colour of the floor. Blends in with the colour of the floor. These kind of things. Railings, if you're having them, then may they be in a spot that's appropriate.
So actually on the railings thing, what you were speaking to me about earlier, I think that's a really interesting point about this railings that are really confusing.
And if you've got, like, particularly even for myself, those who are totally blind, if a railing is there for a purpose, then it shouldn't be half done. It should be all done. It's like half doing a road. It's not advisable to do that. Surely it's not normal for that to happen. Maybe in some places it is, I don't know. But it's not I wouldn't say that as a good idea. So I think just to be all or nothing with visually impaired signage and tactile paving and drop curves. I think more as opposed to more needs to be. There needs to be more of it as opposed to less of it. Because no matter where people live in Brighton, most people do have to come into town. and so, and also that needs to be carried on out throughout the whole city as well. I think it's really important for it not to just be gravitated in town, but it needs to be throughout, so it's all kept in line, up to date again. Yeah, that's important. That came up quite strongly from that participant who has been here for 2 years since they've been living somewhere else. And again, one of the other participants who's lived here for quite a while also agreed with that as well, about just a bit more clarification would be very useful. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So obviously that was one thing that was spoken about in the one-on-ones, and then like how else did they, I guess, form the tour or feed into the tour?
And that, well, all those conversations actually came up in the workshop as well. You know, we had this pre-discussion in the workshop, and then in the tour. I mean, personally, so the lights that we've used are all, they're not sounding lights, but the cone spins underneath.
Yeah.
For most of them. I might have to rethink, actually.
Okay.
One of the crossing points, which I think is the one by the Albion. I'm not sure how. If I might choose a different crossing point.
And why would you do that?
Just because there'd be one of the, I can't remember what it was, but one of the things are missing. The cone, I can't remember which one it was. There was a cone missing on one of them. It was a bit broken.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I can't remember which point that was. I'm not sure if it was around there or another one. Mm-hmm. But I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Either way, we're setting up at the seafront, but what I might do is there is a crossing right at the side of the Albion, which faces the seafront. Mm-hmm. The pier is on the left.
Yeah.
That could also be another. And actually, there's only 2 roads to cross there, which is easier than crossing 4, almost 5 roads. Yeah. Which is, so, and then you're still getting the pier and the Sea Life Centre, which will be on the right there, and the rest of the things. So, yeah.
And then I guess maybe because you just mentioned it, but the movement workshop, just for like to maybe talk about that a little bit and what that day looked like.
The movement workshop for me was about really getting people used to moving around, navigating the space, thinking of ways they might, how they might deal with uneven paving through playing with balance and spatial awareness, and just taking the time to really listen, but feel and sense where they are. Mm-hmm. That was the idea from the workshop is that hopefully from that workshop people will feel more confident in navigating the space, feeling the floor, being in touch with the floor, especially for those visually impaired people who don't use canes. Okay. Because some of the people, I'm not sure everyone that came to the workshop used a cane. And particularly, it's very important for those who don't use a cane yet to really be aware, to sense where they are, and to to just take their time when they're moving around. Yes. And also the idea is to help with posture awareness as well, because visually impaired people can have a problem with posture, depending on how, if their head's down, looking at the floor, or straight ahead, and also to relax the arm which uses the cane if they're a cane user, not to hold them tension in that, because there's a chance of muscle tension, which can happen if you're tensed up all the time. So that was what we explored in the workshop, and hopefully that will all feed in nicely to the actual tour.
Yeah, it also sounds like it was like a really great experience because it's this really creative, fun environment, but like what you're speaking to now is like there were principles behind it that can be taken away and
totally
implemented. Yeah. And was this the first time you ran a workshop like this, or do you do that as part of your practice?
I've kind of fed in the same ideas in other workshops that I've done as well. But I actually use similar things in regardless of if the people in the workshop are visually impaired or not.
Yeah.
Because often people are so used to visualizing and seeing everything.
Yeah.
That it's good for people to play with, to use their mind's eye and to use the other senses, especially with the leader and following exercise, which is what I did in the workshop as well. For people to explore level changes, which happens on the foot often. In Brighton, it's very common. Up the hill and downhill. So we played with that as well. So I do use that. I generally use some of these exercises most of the time.
Yeah. And then, well, it sounds fantastic. And then, so did you get much feedback? Because I know that, like, you portioned some of the day to having discussions as well.
Yeah.
What type of feedback was it? What came up?
All the participants found it really interesting, and they were really happy to meet other visually impaired people, because they not all had done, apart from one of them. So particularly the one who just moved back, been here 2 years, they were really glad to have this experience to be a part of something which is very new for them, and to share and hear about the tour and to experience it. And they were hopeful, and they were like, I really hope after this workshop that maybe some of this information will get to the right people, and the changes that we speak about today can be implemented. And I was like, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things, and overall, people just really enjoyed the chance to move and explore.
And were any of the participants, like obviously movement makes up a lot of your practice, but were any of these participants movement practitioners, or was it just visually impaired people of the community, or was there like a range of experience?
They were all visually impaired people of the community, although one of the participants who was from Bristol had actually done some movement stuff before with a dancer from Touchdown Dance Company.
Oh wow, yeah.
So that was really, I was like, okay. So they were actually really confident when it came to the follow and leading, where their guides and when they were guiding, when it was coming up to speeding up and moving at a faster pace, they were very confident with that.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh, okay. That was really nice.
Yeah. And then, do you feel like? So you were just speaking about how these people were looking forward to the prospect of these things being brought to someone and someone hearing them or whatever. Do you feel like there is like someone who listens in that way, or like if there's a body or an organization that's
actually. It's all this stuff is first. Organisations can listen. Visually impaired organisations can listen, but it all comes down to the council at the end of the day.
Okay.
So they're the people that need to be listening.
Yeah.
As always, in anywhere, and even in where I'm from, in Hammersmith, Fulham, where there's a load of where I lived before, there's a lot of disabled people. It all comes down from the community to the council. Even though, say, an organisation like the Royal National Institute of the Blind, RNIB, can say, "Oh, we need this," but this still comes down to the council and them implementing it and doing it. So, I'd say it's the council.
Yeah. So we'll send this to the council basically, and we'll get them down to the tour.
Yeah, it'd be great because, I don't know. I guess I feel like around the country, depending on, I don't know if it depends on organisations, how many organisations there are, or how many visually impaired people there are, or how vocal they are. But you do see the difference in areas of cities where you think, oh, it's a very thought out thing, kind of repeat, kind of goes on, you know, and it's really interesting how and I know there are a lot of visually impaired people here in Brighton, but I also wonder if a lot of people, I'm not sure this is right, but if majority of people here in Brighton are living with someone who is sighted, and so therefore that's a different dependency. If you live alone as a visually impaired person, then there's a lot more externally for me that needs to be in place. In terms of the city being built up and geared up for you. An example of that would be, I don't know, Birmingham, Manchester, London, where this cities are very built up. Nottingham, even, I would say, as well. The constant upkeep of markings and indentations is pretty throughout.
So like an implementation and then a maintenance, those are the important things.
And I just wonder, because like it is different when you do, if you're independent and you go out on your own a lot, then it does make a difference to how confident you feel about getting around.
And is there spaces where visually impaired people, say in Brighton, can come together and meet, or?
As far as I'm aware, there is an organisation that have various kind of events that they meet. But again, there's one organisation who deal with 20 to 30s, and there's another one which I don't know what the age bracket is, but it just so happens that the people that generally attend those events can be older. So there is. I haven't been to any of the social stuff. Again, the social stuff generally is attended by older people. So there's room for a mid kind of 30 something and up. That needs to kind of and that's it happens everywhere. It happens in London there were many groups, because often it was the case of there was a group for people visually impaired people in the age of 20 to 30s, but nothing above that, so people will have to form their own kind of social thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's room for that in Brighton here, because I don't think that happens. I think tennis is probably the thing where that attracts a range of ages. Well, I don't know about the other activities. The theatre trips, I don't know. I haven't been on any of them, but then the theatres haven't been
non-existent.
Yeah, I mean they're open now. Well, they're open now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But yeah, so there's definitely a social somewhere for another social thing. I'd say a space for another.
Yeah. And then, so like, how did you get participants for the workshop, and like, what kind of channels, I guess, would you like reach out on, or even like another visually impaired person if they were like looking for what would be the resources to meet other people? Or...
To meet other people, they would probably have to speak to ESAV, which is the Association of Visually Impaired People, Sussex. And then there's another one, Blatchington Court or something, or House. They deal with people from the age of 20 to 30. And so those are the two organisations that I had to be. As a matter of fact, I actually spoke to the visually impaired mobility officer for the Brighton area to get the word out there.
Yeah.
Because they're actually in touch with everybody, and they know, and so that's how I got my word out about the workshop and about the tour.
Great.
So yeah, thankfully, and to be honest with you, the rehabilitation officer for this area, they've been amazing, because before I'm not sure where things were, where if the organisation knew or if they had known but didn't pass it on. So I'm really glad to know now that it's out there now, and yeah, it's just a case of see what comes, because now everyone's in touch and connected, and so I'm hoping that more people will come forward now.
Yeah. And do you imagine this is like the beginning of like some more sort of work on this side of things, or what's your ideas around it right now?
After this, I'm not sure. Maybe some more workshops if people are interested in those.
Yeah.
Particularly the movement workshops. I'll be really happy to do more of them for the visually impaired people, and maybe invite other artists that I know that have done similar stuff. To come, some of my teachers from London to come down to do so. I know they'd be really excited to do something like that. So that's kind of what I'd be hoping.
Yeah.
And also, hopefully, on the social side, to create a mid group, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
For people to meet other visually impaired people, if they want to.
Yeah.
Of course. Because I know that there are many groups, people of socials in Brighton. I know that. But I do feel it's nice as visually impaired people. It's nice to occasionally, or at least once a month, or twice a month, to meet up with other people that are visually impaired like yourself.
Yeah.
So even if it's just to go for a Sunday roast together or things, or to go to London together on an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, just like when you moved to Brighton, how did you like first experience? Sorry, this is kind of changing the subject, but I was just thinking about it. Like, did you know Brighton much before, or like what were your like first, if someone was to move to Brighton, what would you advise them to be their like first protocol as like a visually impaired person, or like access stuff, or what would be helpful?
Okay, looking back on it now. So first of all, the first thing is to move here. You have to stay here for about a week to find somewhere to live.
Yeah.
If not longer, but a week. In a week, you should find somewhere. And also to be aware of different estate agents that might seem a bit more open and friendly towards, and people that are visually impaired, because some people don't have a clue, and some people are just like want you in to look at the property and they want the money straight away. So it's important to bear that in mind, and also to find out about. For me, I would have looked more closely at the visually impaired organisations to see what they're doing and how much say they actually have in the city in terms of how things are implemented and how active the visually impaired community are here. That's quite important. And because I didn't know. So I was coming to Brighton as a tourist and as an artist performing. It was a huge, a big move. I was living in supported accommodation in London, so I was in a very secure area, living quite close to Chiswick in West London. However, when I moved out, the whole thing has changed. Things changed dramatically, and I've been told I've lived out a very good time because things have changed and not what they were. I think just research and like exploring all the different areas, and it's probably good to stay, if you can, stay somewhere central and stay somewhere inland to get the contrast of the two. So you can know where, if you're going to spend money on renting a place, where would you like to do it. Also look at the different house share options and how much they're charging, and if it's worth it for what they're charging, what they're renting. Those are the things. What else? Pretty much it. Really. Personal decisions is how much of your stuff medically, if you haven't, I have underlying medical condition. How much of your stuff you want to keep in the city, if you're from a major city, how much stuff you want to keep there, and how much you want to bring here. For me, I chose to keep my hospital in London and my doctor stuff here. That's just a personal choice because London is the place. It's one of the cities of expertise. So I always would stick with that. That's it really. Yeah,
that's really helpful. I mean, that's like a really great little starter, checklist thing. I think there's only really two of the things that I want to ask you. The first one I should have asked ages ago, but it's just like maybe speak a little bit about your practice outside of this tour, and
So outside of this tour, I am a cabaret dance performance artist, photographer. Outside of this tour, I am creating and working on stuff for performing. Often inspired by music, and movement and dance. We're attending dance workshops and also just walking along the seafront, actually.
Yeah.
Things like that. But yeah, that's and that all feeds in just navigating the streets, the sea, and taking in, having moments of where like stillness, not doing much, but taking it all in and then thinking how I might apply that to movement, and I'm also trying at the moment to figure out ways of how I can better describe my cabaret stuff that I do.
Okay.
So often I might be lip syncing and moving.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's a constant journey. I'm working on that because I want my performances to be accessible to everyone. So that's an ongoing journey, ongoing discovery, and because my background, because I went in my college years, so I basically started training in performing arts when I was about 16 years old. And at the Royal National College for the Blind in Hereford, where I did. Basically, I focused on dance and music.
Yeah.
And I did theatre for children as a kind of drama side, but drama's never been my thing. So yeah, and we always use like props, and so in terms of my cabaret stuff, I will always use I don't know, some kind of prop, be it a sheet or some shiny material, or just to add substance, even if it's just to bring a flow to the piece. Yes, and even my cane is using it as a prop as opposed to a mobility aid.
Yeah, that's nice. To work with that. That's interesting. And is your cabaret stuff like mostly solo work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, however, at the end of the end of March, I will. So basically, as part of an event called Transpose, which is celebrating queerness and transness, I will be kind of, I guess, choreographing. I am, sorry. A piece which I've had in my head, where we'll be playing with picture frames from a small to large scale, and I'm working with two other amazing artists, one from Liverpool, and an artist from London, and we're going to be, I'm really excited to be doing that in the theatre at the Barbican.
Oh yeah, that sounds amazing. That would be really exciting.
So yeah, and it's just nice to be. I don't often. I mean, generally, I because being part of groups like companies like Amiki, it's a big theatre company.
Yeah.
30 people, large. So working alone, I actually quite enjoy. But to work with two other people who are very easy to work with is really nice.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that. And again, we'll be using props in there, chairs and frames, and yeah.
It sounds really interesting. So it's like maybe the props offer like context to the work as well, or like
I mean, so the idea of frames is actually from a song. And so I thought, wow, it'd be so cool to have big picture frames, and to play with that, and to to play with being in and outside of the picture, and what that's like, to be seen, not to be seen, to be in frame, out of frame. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then I think the last thing that I just wanted to ask was about like what's next. I guess you kind of answered it with the Barbican.
What's next?
So,
that is actually no. What's next is I'm on a judge panel, which I've always kind of been scared of.
Yeah.
And said, oh gosh, I'd not like to be in that position.
Yeah.
But I have been invited to a disability talent show.
Oh, wow.
at the Royal Vauxhall Tavern in London. It's part of the organisation Disabled Queer in Here. It's a disabled LGBT organisation that supports LGBT disabled people and their talent. And we're putting on a talent show. I'm part of the board. We're putting on a talent show to celebrate LGBT talent, disabled talent. And I'm one of the judges, along with the host of the night, which will be Miss Sugar Cube. And there's going to be also, oh god, the name's Jason Reed, who writes for QX magazine and DC magazine, and Essie Lahore, an amazing cabaret performer, who I've known for many years, and Miss Moore, who's a wonderful cabaret performer as well. I've visited their shows, seen their shows, and they're amazing. And then we also have a guest from Cardiff as well. Who's going to be also hosting the night, so it's going to be an amazing night.
It sounds like it's going to be super fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward. That's on the 9th of March.
Okay.
Royal Vauxhall Tavern.
Oh, so that's just before the tour for this.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's you busy.
yeah. See your head to yeah, so that's that. I'm also involved in a photo shoot of the gosh, I can't think of the name of it now. Yeah, there's a photo shoot happening beyond the tour and beyond the talent show, celebrating beauty. So me and some other amazing drag cabaret performers at a very nice venue in London somewhere. Yeah, so
that all sounds amazing. I guess, is there any platforms if people want to see what you're doing? Is there any platforms you use? Any social channels?
Yes, you can follow me at Ebony Rose Dark on Facebook, or Ebony Rose Dark on Instagram.
Amazing. And then if there's anything else you feel like you want to say, or
I would just I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast, and be it sitting in a place and just sitting at home listening to it, or taking yourself on the actual tour from the clock tower all the way to the seafront, and also if you even want to deviate, so enjoy listening and enjoy the tour from a sensorial point of view.